Well, about that same time, gas chromatography came up as an activity, and gas chromatography proved to be extremely important in our laboratory in the Heart Institute. Evan Horning decided he wanted to look at gas chromatography, and I remember vividly. I take a lot of credit for the discovery of gas chromatography in our laboratory because I recommended directly against doing it. Evan Horning sent me to New York City to look at this new thing called a vapor fractograph made by Perkinol. I took along some of my valuable alkaloids and shot them onto the thing and got a perfectly flat baseline. Nothing came off. I came back, told Evan Horning, look, this gas chromatography is for the birds. Chuck it. Don't go into it. Fortunately for all of us, Evan didn't listen to me and got involved in the gas chromatography, which up to that point had been used mostly for low molecular weight materials, like fatty acids at the most. And he was interested in fatty acids and began to work with it extensively. And he got involved with Chuck Sweely there and Bill Vandenheuvel. And the three of them began to look at means of getting compounds to come off the gas chromatograph earlier. And I remember one day Chuck made a column, and Chuck was kind of impatient, and he put the silicone phase into the liquid. They were just beginning to use silicone columns, and he stirred it around a few times. And he said, well, that's dissolved enough. And he poured the solid material into the liquid phase, filtered it quickly, made a column out of it, and put on the standard test mixture of fatty acid methyl esters. And then he gave, again, a flat line. But then looking closely at it, Chuck realized that all of the fatty acid esters, C16, C18, were all in the solvent front, coming down as a bunch of lines in the solvent front. And to give Chuck all the credit in the world, he realized that somehow he'd been able to get these fatty esters that normally came off at 250 degrees, getting them off at about 150 instead. And he said, well, if that could be done with fatty esters, possibly you could put something really big, like a steroid, like cholesterol on the column. I remember the very first steroid they used was one of the hardest ones, cholesterol. And they injected cholesterol on the column, came off as a peak successfully, and none of the organic chemists in the group believed it. The idea that you could vaporize cholesterol in gas chromatograph at that time seemed absolutely insane. But they collected it with a long piece of Teflon tubing and showed that indeed it was cholesterol. It took a melting point and everything was fine. So there followed a few years of wild chaos in the laboratory when all of us began pouring everything we could get our hands on over the gas chromatograph. Night and day we were injecting samples in there. And Helen Lloyd, myself, Bob Hyatt, and Bill Vandenheuvel, and Bill Wildman at the time, who was my boss, began to put on alkaloids. And indeed, we were really shocked that we could actually get alkaloids off of the gas chromatograph. And it really changed our way of thinking. At the same time,